What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the engagingly eccentric Dr. Disaster, and to say that this year has not been a good one for Disney Marvel thus far is an understatement of staggering proportions. It seems that scraping the bottom of the barrel for characters and race-swapping old ones just is not producing results.
I want you guys to like me. No!
Captain America Brave New World was a massive box office disappointment, making about $415 million on a budget that was reportedly somewhere around $300 million after reshoots. And of course, since the studio shares around half of ticket sales with theaters, that means that they needed to make around $600 million just to break even, and that isn't even factoring in marketing. And then there was Thunderbolts, which made a little over $380 million, but when you factor in the production budget and the marketing, it was a flop. And then when we throw in Ironheart, which cost $150 million to make and which nobody frickin' watched, well, Disney's mood isn't that hard to guess.
I've slipped into the seventh circle of hell. Thank you.
Suffice to say, Marvel really needs a win with Fantastic Four First Steps, but this messaging here isn't helping them a damn bit, where they make it seem like the Fantastic Four is no longer being led by Reed Richards. Instead, Sue Storm is the boss. Or, of course, we can always count on Pedro Pascal to have awful messaging. Recently, at this movie's red carpet event, he was lecturing everyone about trans rights.
It's important to, protect people and human beings, especially those that are simply asking for the right to exist in the bodies that belong to them and in the world that they never asked to be brought into.
Suit yourself, queer.
That shit is just insufferable, it doesn't play anymore, and with all of this messaging in mind, it is no wonder that we've seen a drop in expected box office for Fantastic Four First Steps. The numbers are not looking very good, especially for a film that had a pretty sizable budget and which is expected to kick off a new Marvel phase. Disney needs this film to get people excited about what's coming next. Instead, with the lowering projections, it looks like the message from a lot of people is this.
So long, gay boy!
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and also, don't forget to follow me over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster 1. Oh, and I've started uploading some content onto Rumble too, so make sure that you follow Dr. Disaster over there. But anyhow, let's dive into this word that Disney is supposedly nervous about the Fantastic Four film. This article from Deadline talks about it along with the projected opening weekend numbers for Fantastic Four. In that second paragraph it says, Disney is expected to ring in the last $100 million plus opener of the season from the first weekend of May through Labor Day with Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four First Steps, which tracking has comfortably between 100 and 110 million on July 25th. I kept hearing, oh, Disney is nervous, but the stats look good. With $13 million pre-sales as of Monday, Fantastic Four is pacing ahead of the pre-sales for Thunderbolts, which hit $74.3 million on its opening weekend, and Captain America Brave New World, which had an $88.8 million opening and 20% behind Superman, which ended up at about $125 million. So, let's talk about this notion, this rumor, that Disney is nervous about the Fantastic Four numbers. Now, obviously, Deadline's job is to spin things into a positive in order to get people hyped up about the movies so that their Hollywood masters can make a bunch of money. That's why this writer says he doesn't understand why Fantastic Four's box office projections would make Disney nervous. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it likely has a lot to do with this right here. This article from Screen Rant was written a month ago or so, talking about how big the Fantastic Four opening weekend was going to be. And this is what it said. According to Box Office Theory, DC's Superman is early tracking for a domestic opening weekend in the $140 to $185 million range. Yeah, that ended up being way too high as well, didn't it? But anyhow, Marvel's The Fantastic Four First Steps could debut at 125 to 155 million. It is important to note that since both superhero movies are still a fair bit away, tracking for their domestic openings will fluctuate as they get closer to release. That said, the projections are exciting, as the upcoming DCU movie could be the major performer that the studio needs to launch a new universe, and Marvel's slate of projects after the Fantastic Four reboot could carry the momentum of the film. Like I said, Disney is really banking on this movie generating momentum for the rest of the MCU moving forward. The Fantastic Four is a big name. Unlike the Thunderbolts or the hand-me-down version of Captain America, this is a major league IP that, in theory, should have the power to catapult the MCU back into some semblance of positivity, but those numbers from a month ago were projecting a high end of $155 million for the opening weekend. Now, they're saying that the high end is $110 million. That is a roughly 30% drop-off in projections, and keep in mind that the low end of the projections is where these Marvel movies have been landing lately, which would put Fantastic Four into territory somewhere around $100 million. That isn't too far off from the opening of Captain America Brave New World, which hit $88 million on its opener and limped to a finish of a little over $400 million, with a production budget reported at $200 million and likely at least $100 million spent on marketing for the Fantastic Four film. This movie is likely needing somewhere around $600 million just to break even, and breaking even is not at all what Disney wants and in fact needs for this film. They need something big, and that is why we see this right here. A few days ago, this story started circulating big time in the wake of Pedro Pascal making everyone's eyes roll with this talk that he was following Vanessa Kirby in the Fantastic Four film, making it seem like Reed Richards was no longer the leader of the group. Instead, it was going to be Susan Storm. They made it clear in this story, though, that Reed Richards will be the leader of the Avengers in the next Avengers movie. They know that people are not interested in yet another film where a male hero is supplanted by a girl boss. So this headline here is them just running damage control. And who knows if it's even true. The point is, they need you to think it is so they can fool you just long enough to buy a movie ticket to Fantastic Four, because those opening weekend projections are trending absolutely in the wrong direction for Disney, and it looks like this film, which was supposed to be the biggie for this year from the company, they will not come anywhere near last year's Deadpool and Wolverine. That one wasn't much of an MCU film if you ask me, more of an old school Fox Marvel cash grab, banking on actually popular portrayals of actually popular characters. In any case, as you can see, that movie hit over $200 million on its opening weekend, and it went on to bring in over $1.3 billion. But without that sort of nostalgia bait, everything the MCU touches these days is just bland and flavorless, which is why it looks like this Fantastic Four movie is going to make about half of what Deadpool and Wolverine brought in on the opening weekend. Even with a popular IP like Fantastic Four, they look like they're just struggling to gain any footing. The first comments from people who have seen this film were positive, because of course they were. For a lot of these critics, every Marvel movie is the best thing ever that they've ever seen until the next Marvel movie releases, but people aren't buying into that shit any longer. In any case, I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your mockery of Disney and its flagging MCU into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.